All right, gotta love when a Twitter storm hits our news cycle. Buckle up, because today's deep dive is all about Elon Musk, immigration, and let's just say it's sparking a lot of debate. You sent in this Washington Post piece, a review of what Elon Musk's hyperventilating immigration post got wrong. Hot off the presses, dropped today, September 30th, 2024.
Talk about jumping right into the thick of it, huh? It's incredible how fast an idea can catch fire online,
Right.
especially with someone like Musk and a topic as well, loaded as immigration.
Like throwing gasoline on an already roaring fire, right?
Yeah.
So Musk's making headlines with this claim that a Democrat win in 2024, and it could be the last real election America sees. His reasoning: immigrants becoming citizens, all voting a certain way, and boom, swing states are gone, permanently shifted. Like, picture a map of the U.S. turning blue, state by state.
And that's where we got to pump the brakes for a sec. This whole argument hinges on this assumption that all immigrants vote the same way. Way too simplistic, right? It ignores how diverse their opinions are, how complex their relationship is with politics here.
Right. It's not like every new citizen's rushing off the plane and straight to the ballot box. Like, remember a few elections back, all that talk about the Latino vote as if it's one giant, predictable thing.
Exactly. It's never that cut and dry. Plus, parties, they change too. They adapt based on who's voting, what the culture's like, even economic stuff. Like, think about the Republican stance on same-sex marriage just a few decades ago. Totally different ballgame now.
Survival of the fittest, political party edition, gotta stay relevant. And that means appealing to a changing group of voters, right? But Musk's implying it's one-sided, that these new voters equal automatic victory for one side.
And that's a major hole in the argument. He keeps using California as this example, this warning sign of what happens when immigration's unchecked. But even that comparison needs a closer look, don't you think?
Yeah, he keeps going back to California like a broken record almost. But is it really that simple? I mean, it's a huge state with a complicated history.
Absolutely. California's political scene, it's the result of decades of change, economic shifts, social movements, cultural influences, to pin it all on immigration. That's reductive and, frankly, just not accurate.
It's like looking at a whole tapestry and only seeing one thread. You totally miss the bigger picture, all the details that make it what it is.
Exactly. And that's something we see a lot with misinformation, unfortunately. This urge to take something complex and boil it down to the simplest story, even if it doesn't match up to reality.
Okay, so we're seeing that this idea of immigrants totally reshaping the political landscape, it's a bit of a stretch. But Musk doesn't stop there, oh no. He doubles down, says even a small number of these new citizens voting, it could tip the scales, especially in those super close swing states.
Yeah, he throws out this number, 20,000 votes, like it's some magic number that decides everything. And sure, some elections are decided by a hair, but Musk's saying those 20,000 votes, they're a permanent change, like flipping a switch to this one-party future he keeps talking about.
Okay, but even if we play along for a sec, 20,000 new voters, all picking one side, does that automatically equal some unstoppable political dynasty?
That's where the analogy kind of falls apart, you see. He's acting like political parties are these unchanging things. Like, they don't adapt to who's voting for them. It's like saying if one sports team gets a couple star players, they're going to win every single game forever.
Right. What about the other team's game plan? What if those star players have a bad season? Or switch teams altogether? You can't just decide the winner based on one thing happening.
Exactly. And that's what's so off about this whole argument. It takes something super complicated, like a whole system, and pretends it all comes down to just one factor.
Okay.
It's ignoring all the other stuff that matters, the economy, social issues, who the actual candidates are,
Yeah.
even just how many people decide to vote on that particular day.
It's like those what if history things, you know? What if this one battle had gone the other way? Fun to think about, but it ignores all the messy stuff that actually shapes how things happen.
Exactly. And that's what we're dealing with here with Musk's argument. It's a simple story, an easy answer,
Yeah.
even when you look closer and it doesn't quite hold up.
And it feels like we're always getting hit with these simple stories these days, online especially. Grab your attention, get you fired up, often with some fear thrown in, and then bam, here's the simple solution.
Totally. And those stories, they're almost comforting, right? In a world that feels kind of chaotic, they give you something to hold on to, someone to blame, someone to be afraid of, someone to trust.
It's like those clickbait headlines, you know? One weird trick to fix all your problems. They know we want easy answers, even if those answers aren't really true or tell the whole story.
And that's where knowing how to handle information comes in, being able to spot those tricks, to question what you're reading or seeing, to realize that most things, especially big, complicated problems, don't have simple solutions.
So it's like we got to be information detectives or something,
Yeah.
right? Learning to sift through the noise, see who's trying to push what agenda, and find those sources you can actually trust.
100%. And knowing that we all have biases, right? We all come to this stuff with our own baggage,
Hmm.
things we were taught, experiences we had, beliefs that just get stronger over time. The important thing is being aware of that baggage, challenging your own assumptions, being open to hearing perspectives that might make you uncomfortable.
It's like we're not just playing checkers here, right? It's a whole chess game. We got to see the pieces on the board, sure, but also the strategy, the psychology, even like the history of how the game got to this point.
You got it. And the context here, it's key. When we're looking at what Musk's saying about immigration, we can't ignore the bigger picture. Global inequalities on the rise, politics are more divided than ever, and yeah, people are anxious about demographics changing.
It's like that saying, right? When people get scared, they look for someone to blame. And there's definitely that fear being used here. This fear of the other, fear of change, of losing something familiar.
No doubt. And fear, it's powerful stuff. It can make people choose emotion over logic, cling to easy answers even when they're, well, not the whole story.
Happens all the time, doesn't it? Politicians, talking heads on TV, they use fear to get people on their side, to make the other side seem like the enemy, to distract from the stuff that's actually really complicated.
Classic tactic, unfortunately.
Mm.
Works because it plays on those deep down instincts, wanting to be safe, wanting to belong, wanting things to be simpler like they used to be.
Like when you're home alone at night, hear a noise, and your brain jumps to the worst case scenario, even if it's probably just the wind or something.
Yeah, exactly. In those moments, it's easy to forget that what we think we see is often shaped by what we're already scared of.
So how do we break out of that? This cycle of fear, misinformation, especially about something as important as immigration.
Got to start with ourselves, honestly.
Yeah.
Recognizing that we all have biases, stuff we were taught growing up, experiences we've had, beliefs that just get reinforced over and over. The key is catching those biases, then actively looking for information that might go against them.
So step out of your comfort zone, basically. Talk to people who disagree with you, read stuff from sources you don't usually agree with, be open to being challenged.
That's it. And don't be afraid to ask questions both of yourself and the others. Why do I believe this? What proof is there? Could there be a different way to see this whole thing?
It's like being okay with being a little uncomfortable, a little unsure, realizing that the world's complicated and the answers rarely are simple.
You got it. And that's where critical thinking is so important, not just accepting what you hear, but really digging into it, asking those tough questions, forming your own opinion based on actual information.
So we got to be active participants in what we let into our heads, not just passively letting anything get in, right?
Exactly, because let's be real, we are bombarded with information these days. Being able to think for ourselves, separate truth from BS, spot bias and manipulation, those skills are more crucial than ever.
It's funny. As we've been talking, it struck me that even though what Musk is saying is concerning, it's also a weird kind of opportunity. It forces us to face these bigger questions about information, about fear, about what we want the future of, democracy itself to look like.
Totally, because at the end of the day, this isn't just about immigration, is it? It's about how we deal with a world that's only getting more complex, how we engage with all this information thrown at us, how we build a society that's actually informed, resilient, and fair.
So, to wrap up this deep dive, next time you see a headline, a tweet, or even just having a conversation that gets you riled up, especially with fear, take a second. Hit that pause button and ask, what's the story this is trying to tell me? What biases are hidden in here? And maybe most importantly, who benefits if I stay scared?
Those are the questions that'll help us navigate this crazy world and build a future where we're all a little more informed, a little more connected.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder those questions. This has been The Deep Dive, and we'll catch you next time for another deep dive into the issues that matter.